And listen, it's in the gospel, this good news that we realize God's anger was really never against us in the first place. His anger, that wrath, the penalty and the consequences for sin and all that stuff, all of that was really against sin itself and against the enemy and against the deception that wants to destroy his children. And I've used this analogy many times. I've talked about how, if there's a sickness that shows up in one of my kids' bodies, I am not angry at my kids for being sick. I'm angry and I have wrath against that disease and I want it destroyed, operated on, removed completely. Okay, that's what we're talking about when we talk about the wrath of God. You understand? His wrath is against this disease. Yes, did we participate in it? Did we invite it in? Yes, we did, because we were deceived in our innocence. God's wrath is against that which is trying to destroy our lives, against sin that wants to corrupt and remove innocence and freedom from us. There is no anger in his gaze towards you. No anger in his eyes. And that passage in Isaiah is referencing Noah's flood. And we all know what showed up in the sky after Noah's flood. Okay, I was hoping you'd get that answer. Thank goodness. All right. The rainbow. Okay. Yeah. It's hinting at this image of the rainbow here. And I want to talk about that for a moment because what's really important about the image of the rainbow is not that it's this pretty thing that happens after a storm. Okay? That's part of it. But really, what the rainbow is a hung up weapon of warfare. And again, you wouldn't know this without understanding the Hebrew, that in the Hebrew, the word for rainbow, they could have created a unique word for it involving rain or storm or water, but it's just the word for a bow, as in a bow and arrow. And in their mind, when this was this not written to people who just used a bow to go hunting or archery lessons. The bow was an instrument for war. It represented warfare. So a bow hung up in the sky is a sign that the war is over. The hostility between us and heaven is removed. That's why God pointed Noah to the rainbow. No hostility, no anger in God's heart towards his children. And Noah's rainbow, of course, was pointing ahead to the covenant that we're to enter into. Look at Genesis 9 with me. You got to see it. I want you to see it yourself. Genesis 9. We'll just take 3 verses out of it, 13, 14, and 15. God is speaking to Noah here after the flood, and he says, I set my bow in the cloud. I will hang up the bow of war, and it shall be for a sign of a covenant between me and the earth. Verse 14, it shall come about when I bring a cloud over the earth that the bow will be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and never again shall the water become a flood or a weapon to destroy all flesh. The rainbow is about peace. And the fact that it comes out after a storm is just the icing on the cake. But that's really not the main point, okay? Listen, the rainbow is a promise of coming through bad times, that we're going to make it, that it's going to be okay. But the ultimate promise of the rainbow is something already fulfilled and available to you. It's the promise of the gospel. It's good news that right now you can hang up your own hang-ups with God, with yourself, and you can enter into friendship and peace with your Creator. And you could begin to extend that to others as well. It's about peace with God now. And it points us to the finished work of Christ, which I believe is why God designed the human eye to pick up 7 primary colors of rainbow. 7 being the constant biblical number of it is finished. Enter my rest. Enter into peace with me. Come into my arms. Come into my heart. Now back to David and Jonathan, okay?